What if I told you that some of heavy metal's loudest rebels, the same artists who lived on blazing stages and fed off pure chaos, walked away from it all to follow a completely different path? These were musicians who once ruled the world with screaming guitars and thunderous drums, yet something inside them pulled them toward faith, peace, and a life far from the noise. Their transformations shocked fans, shook their bands, and rewrote their destinies. Here are 20 heavy metal stars who turned their backs on fame, fortune, and the wildlife, all to follow God. 20. John Tarantula. John Tarantula shocked the heavy metal world when he stepped away from the dark, fast, and aggressive sound he helped build in Paradox and turned his focus toward God. For years, he was known for intense riffs, harsh vocals, and a style that embraced the shadows more than the light. Fans saw him as a true force in extreme metal, someone who could take a small underground band and give it a powerful presence with nothing more than raw talent and pure energy. But behind that intense stage persona, he carried personal battles that pushed him to search for something deeper and more stable than the chaos around him. Over time, he felt himself drawn toward faith, something he had never expected to explore. This shift did not happen overnight. It grew slowly as he started questioning the lifestyle around him, the noise, and the constant push for more darkness in his music. When he finally chose to walk away from that world, it surprised everyone, including his closest supporters. He later used his writing and musical ideas to express a new sense of purpose, trading anger for clarity and confusion for direction. His change showed that even the hardest metal hearts can find a different path. 19. Roger Martinez. Roger Martinez built his name inside the loud and chaotic world of Vengeance Rising, a band known for fast thrash metal and heavy themes. His voice was fierce, his delivery intense, and his presence on stage felt larger than life. From the outside, it looked like he was fully committed to the aggressive world he helped shape. But deep inside, he battled a feeling that something was missing. The constant pressure, the wild touring life, and the noise around him pushed him to question what truly mattered. That search slowly pulled him toward faith, something that felt completely different from the world he lived in. When he stepped away from heavy metal to follow God, it created a wave of surprise. Fans had seen him as one of the strongest voices in extreme music, and suddenly he was heading in the opposite direction. His shift opened discussions about the struggle between fame, personal beliefs, and the desire for a life that feels grounded. Even though people reacted in many different ways, his transformation showed a softer side of a man who once carried a fierce image. His journey became a reminder that even the loudest performers sometimes need silence to understand who they want to be. 18. Robert Sweet. Robert Sweet spent years shaking stages with his powerful drumming and bold image as part of Stryper, one of the most famous Christian metal bands in history. Even though Stryper already carried a message of faith, Robert's personal journey went far deeper than what fans saw under the bright lights. He lived the fast world of touring, loud crowds, and constant pressure, and at times it pushed him into moments of exhaustion and self-doubt. Through it all, he held tight to the belief that life had meaning beyond music and that faith was the center pulling him back whenever things felt too heavy. As he grew older, that inner pull became stronger. Robert started shifting his focus from the chase of fame toward a life built on purpose. His connection to God shaped the way he handled success, handled criticism, and handled the changing world of rock. Instead of living only for the next show, he began living for something more steady and peaceful. His story stands out because he never tried to hide the role faith played in his choices. He showed that even in a loud and wild genre like heavy metal, a person can stand firm with values that guide every step. 17. Michael Sweet. Michael Sweet became the face of Stryper, known for his soaring vocals, bright yellow outfits, and a message that shocked the rock world at the time. While other metal bands celebrated chaos and rebellion, Michael moved in the opposite direction, holding onto his faith even when it cost him opportunities and respect from critics. But behind the confident stage presence was a man carrying personal responsibility, spiritual dedication, and a desire to use his voice for something bigger than entertainment. His connection to God guided him through tough industry politics, intense pressure, and moments when the band was nearly pushed aside. Over the years, Michael stepped away from the chase for mainstream acceptance and focused more on his relationship with God. The music stayed important, but it was no longer the center of his identity. He put his attention on faith, family, and the kind of message he wanted to leave behind. Even when Stryper continued performing, his priorities changed completely. Instead of living for applause, he lived for meaning. His transformation showed that a metal frontman can carry strength, passion, and purpose without losing himself to the noise around him. 16. Ray Parra. Ray Parra made his mark in Sacred Warrior with powerful high notes, dramatic melodies, and a presence that felt bigger than the stage. He brought a theatrical style to heavy metal, mixing the intensity of the genre with emotional storytelling. But while he performed in a world filled with loud riffs and aggressive energy, he always felt a strong pull toward his faith. Over time, that feeling grew deeper, especially as he dealt with the strain of touring, personal struggles, and the never-ending demands of music life. His spiritual side became the place he returned to whenever life felt overwhelming. Eventually, Ray stepped back from the spotlight to give more of himself to God. He focused on ministry, worship, and a calmer, more grounded life. The shift surprised many fans who only knew him as the metal vocalist with an incredible range. But for Ray, the change felt natural, like he was finally choosing the life he was meant to live. Even though he continued to sing at times, his heart moved away from the heavy metal scene and closer to his faith. His journey showed he valued meaning more than fame. 15. Glenn Kaiser. Glenn Kaiser helped shape the sound of heavy Christian rock long before it became widely recognized. As part of Resurrection Band, he pushed boundaries with gritty guitars, raw vocals, and lyrics that carried emotional weight. But behind the music was a man deeply committed to faith and service. While other performers chased fame, Glenn spent years working with communities, helping people in need, and living a life built on compassion. His connection to God was not just a belief, it was a lifestyle, shaping everything from his music to his daily choices. Over time, Glenn focused more on ministry and outreach than touring or performing. He stepped away from the fast rhythm of rock life and devoted himself to helping people facing poverty, addiction, and hardship. His shift did not feel like a retreat from music, but a movement toward something more meaningful. He continued writing songs, but his purpose changed. Instead of entertaining crowds, he wanted to inspire, comfort, and uplift. Glenn's journey stands out because he walked away from the spotlight to follow a calling that felt larger than the stage. His life became a mix of music, faith, and genuine service. 14. Gary Lenire. Gary Lenire helped shape the sound of Tourniquet, a band known for mixing sharp thrash metal with technical skill and deep themes. His guitar work was fast, powerful, and full of personality, making him a major part of the band's identity. But behind the strong riffs and aggressive energy, Gary carried long-running struggles with direction, purpose, and the pressure of staying inside a music scene that demanded intensity at all times. Over the years, he found himself pulled toward faith, which gave him a steadier sense of meaning than the shifting world of metal. That pull eventually changed his life completely. Gary stepped away from the heavier direction of his earlier career and put more of his time into spiritual growth. His journey was not sudden. It developed slowly through years of thinking, searching, and trying to understand what he truly wanted from life. When he finally embraced God, he began creating music with a different heart, choosing clarity over chaos and purpose over noise. His transformation surprised many, but it reflected a man choosing peace after years of loud stages and restless nights. Gary became known not just for his guitar talent, but for the direction he chose when life demanded honesty. 13. Victor Vic Griffin. Victor Vic Griffin built a powerful legacy inside Pentagram with crushing riffs, heavy tones, and a doom metal sound that inspired countless bands. His guitar style carried weight, darkness, and strength, giving Pentagram a unique identity in a world filled with louder and faster metal. But while he lived inside that heavy atmosphere, he struggled with addiction, pressure, and a lifestyle that made everything feel unstable. Through all the chaos, he kept searching for something stronger than the cycles pulling him down. That search led him toward faith, which slowly became a steady place for him to rebuild his life. When Vic embraced Christianity, it marked a major turning point. He began pouring his energy into cleaner living, spiritual growth, and music that reflected hope rather than despair. He even formed Place of Skulls, a project built around his renewed beliefs. His transformation showed a softer and more thoughtful side, proving that heavy metal musicians are more than the stages they stand on. Instead of continuing down a dark road, Vic chose discipline, clarity, and purpose. His story became an example of how a musician can step out of a shadowed world and find a brighter place without losing creativity or passion. 12. Tom Araya. Tom Araya shocked many people when he openly embraced his Christian and Catholic beliefs, despite being the frontman of Slayer, one of the most intense and controversial bands in metal history. His powerful scream, fierce stage presence, and dark lyrical themes made him a symbol of the genre's extreme side. But behind the loud music and aggressive image, Tom carried personal beliefs that did not match what fans expected. Instead of walking fully inside the darkness associated with Slayer, he held onto a quiet, steady faith that shaped his private life far more than most people realized. As years passed, Tom grew more open about the role God played in his personal world. Even though he did not leave music completely, he stepped away from the identity that once defined him. He focused more on family, inner peace, and spiritual values. His shift showed a man separating his real life from the character he played on stage. The transformation did not come with loud announcements. It came through personal understanding and a desire for a stable, meaningful life beyond fame. Tom's journey proved that even the front man of an extremely dark band can carry a quiet, powerful connection to faith. 11. Peter Steele. Peter Steele became famous for his deep voice, towering height, and dark, brooding soul as the frontman of Type O Negative. He lived in a world filled with gothic themes, heavy emotions, and a stage image that looked almost supernatural. But behind the dramatic performance was a man wrestling with loss, addiction, and emotional struggles that shaped his life far more than the public ever saw. As he faced these challenges, Peter began reconnecting with the Catholic faith he grew up with, searching for stability in moments when everything around him felt unstable. That slow return to God changed the way he saw himself and the world. His outlook shifted from anger to reflection, and from chaos to understanding. While he did not fully abandon music before his passing, he stepped back from the darker lifestyle that once surrounded him. He focused more on finding inner peace and making sense of the life he lived. His journey was quiet but meaningful, showing a man who used faith as a way to heal from years of emotional storms. Peter's transformation reminded people that even those who seem surrounded by darkness can find light in unexpected places. 10. Dave Mustaine. Dave Mustaine rose from chaos, anger, and raw talent to become one of the most important figures in heavy metal. His fast riffs, sharp lyrics, and fearless attitude shaped Megadeth and changed the sound of the entire genre. But behind that iron-hard image was a man battling addiction, emotional storms, and a lifestyle that pushed him to the edge many times. After years of living at full speed, Dave reached a breaking point that forced him to step back and face the damage around him. It was during this difficult period that he turned toward God, something he had avoided for most of his early career. His faith became the anchor he needed to rebuild his life. Dave started focusing on sobriety, family, and spiritual growth. Even though he continued performing, his priorities changed completely. The wild, reckless days gave way to discipline and self-control. His new life helped him stay strong through illness, setbacks, and the pressure of being a metal legend. Dave's transformation showed how a man known for aggression and rebellion could find peace through faith. His journey added depth to his music and helped him reconnect with himself in a way that felt steady and real. 9. Alice Cooper. Alice Cooper built a career on shock value, wild costumes, and a theatrical stage presence that felt like a horror movie come to life. Fans knew him as the king of shock rock, a performer who pushed boundaries and created an image no one dared copy. Behind all the makeup and madness, though, was a man sinking under the weight of addiction and an out-of-control lifestyle. As the years went on, the chaos nearly destroyed him, leaving him searching desperately for something that could bring stability back into his life. That search led him to God, and the change was dramatic. Alice embraced Christianity with a seriousness that surprised everyone who only knew his stage character. He rebuilt his life, overcame his addictions, and found peace in a place he never expected. Even though he kept performing, he no longer lived in the darkness that once surrounded him. His faith became the foundation that helped him stay grounded while still entertaining millions. Alice Cooper's journey showed that sometimes the loudest performers carry the quietest battles, and faith became the turning point that helped him grow into a stronger, calmer version of himself. 8. Brian Head Welch. Brian Head Welch helped define the sound of Korn with heavy riffs, emotional depth, and a raw, aggressive style that touched millions. His guitar playing became a symbol of nu metal's rise, and his life on the road was filled with non-stop touring, fame, and pressure. But behind the success, Brian struggled with addiction, inner conflict, and a lifestyle that slowly pulled him deeper into darkness. Everything reached a point where he felt completely lost, unable to break free from habits that were destroying his life and hurting his daughter. That breaking point pushed him toward God, and his transformation shocked the entire metal world. Brian left Korn, walked away from fame, and focused on rebuilding his life through faith and healing. He dedicated time to his daughter, overcame addiction, and found a sense of clarity he had been missing for years. Later, he returned to music, but with a different heart and purpose. His story became one of the most public and powerful examples of spiritual change inside heavy metal, showing how deep faith can reshape a life that once lived in chaos. 7. Dan Spitz. Dan Spitz helped shape the thunderous sound of Anthrax with fast, sharp guitar work and a style that defined thrash metal's early years. His talent, energy, and attitude made him an important part of the band's rise. But behind the heavy music and endless touring, Dan dealt with emotional stress, personal struggles, and a lifestyle that drained him more than it fulfilled him. Over time, he felt himself pulled toward a quieter, more meaningful direction, far away from the chaos he once lived in. Dan eventually stepped away from the spotlight and embraced a life centered around faith. He studied deeply, committed himself to new beliefs, and walked a path that surprised many fans. Instead of chasing fame or returning to the loud world of metal, he chose family, spirituality, and personal growth. He also shifted his career into craftsmanship and watchmaking, showing a completely different side of his personality. Dan's journey revealed that even a thrash metal guitarist can find peace in a life built on faith, stability, and purpose. 6. Niko McBrain. Niko McBrain brought energy, personality, and unbeatable skill to Iron Maiden, becoming one of the most admired drummers in heavy metal. His fast footwork, tight rhythms, and joyful stage presence made him a fan favorite, and he lived the rock and roll lifestyle for many years. But behind the fun and the fame, Niko carried a heavy mix of exhaustion, personal battles, and years of wild habits that slowly wore him down. As life became more complicated, he felt a pull towards something deeper than music, something that offered stability when everything else felt shaky. That inner pull led him toward Christianity, and his transformation surprised many people around him. Faith gave him the peace he had been searching for, and he slowly changed the way he lived, thought, and handled challenges. Niko embraced a calmer, more meaningful lifestyle while still keeping his passion for drumming alive. His journey showed that even someone surrounded by fame, noise, and constant travel can step back, listen to their heart, and choose a path that brings real peace. His connection to God became the compass that helped him stay balanced while continuing to inspire metal fans across the world. 5. Sonny Sandoval. Sonny Sandoval rose to fame as the frontman of POD, a band that mixed metal, rock, and emotional storytelling into a powerful spiritual sound. His voice carried both strength and vulnerability, and fans connected deeply to the pain and hope in his lyrics. But the turning point in Sonny's life came after the loss of his mother, an event that shook his world completely. During this heartbreaking period, he turned toward God and found a source of comfort that helped him rebuild his life in a new direction. As he grew in faith, Sonny's music and personal life became more grounded. While he stayed in the metal scene, his heart moved toward ministry, compassion, and purpose. His message became a blend of strength and hope, making him stand out in a genre known for darkness and aggression. Instead of chasing fame, he focused on inspiring others, helping young people, and living with clarity. His journey showed how personal pain can lead to spiritual transformation and how a metal frontman can use his voice to lift others up rather than adding to the chaos around him. 4. Jeff Fenholt. Jeff Fenholt's connection to heavy metal was brief but memorable, especially because of his involvement with Black Sabbath during one of the band's most complicated eras. He had a powerful voice and the natural presence of a rock frontman, but his life behind the scenes was filled with addiction, confusion, and emotional struggle. The lifestyle surrounding heavy music pulled him deeper into destructive habits, leaving him feeling lost and unsure of his purpose. Everything shifted when he reached a breaking point that forced him to confront the path he was on. That moment led him to God, and the change was dramatic. Jeff walked away from the rock entirely and dedicated himself to ministry, preaching, and gospel work. He spent years traveling, speaking, and sharing stories from his past to help others avoid the mistakes he once made. His transformation became one of the most extreme shifts from heavy metal to deep faith. Instead of chasing the spotlight, he chose a life centered on peace and service, showing how a man can completely rebuild himself after years of chaos and self-destruction. 3. Griffin and Impellitteri. Griffin and Impellitteri earned worldwide respect for his lightning-fast guitar skills, sharp technique, and powerful melodies. Fans saw him as a true guitar hero, someone who could play at impossible speed without losing emotion. But behind his talent was a man wrestling with loss, pressure, and a sense that music alone could not fill the emptiness he sometimes felt. The death of his mother deeply affected him and pushed him to search for meaning beyond fame and guitar mastery. That search led him toward faith, and it became a major part of his identity. Chris embraced Christianity not as a stage image, but as a foundation for his personal life. While he continued making music, his direction shifted toward hope, healing, and emotional strength. His belief in God helped him stay grounded in an industry known for pressure and burnout. Even though he remained active in metal, his heart moved toward a life built on balance and spiritual clarity. His story showed that a musician can maintain artistic fire while choosing a path rooted in peace and understanding. 2. Marty Friedman. Marty Friedman became a legend through his incredible guitar work with Megadeth, bringing a unique sound that blended speed, melody, and emotion. His style influenced musicians across the world, and his career exploded with success during the band's most powerful years. But behind the scenes, Marty felt disconnected from the darker themes surrounding heavy metal. He loved the music, but not the chaos that came with it. As time went on, he searched for a different kind of meaning, something that matched his inner values more than the intense world he lived in. That inner shift eventually pulled him away from metal's darker image and toward a more peaceful, grounded lifestyle. While he did not become a preacher or public religious figure, he embraced faith and spiritual discipline as a major part of his private life. His beliefs shaped the choices he made, the careers he pursued, and the quiet, thoughtful personality he became known for. Marty's journey showed that leaving the intensity of metal does not mean losing creativity. Instead, it allowed him to grow into a calmer, wiser version of himself. 1. David Ellefson. David Ellefson played a massive role in shaping Megadeth's fierce, hard-hitting sound, and for years he lived the fast, chaotic lifestyle that came with being part of one of the biggest thrash metal bands in history. On stage, he looked unshakable, locked in, and fully committed to the wild energy that defined the genre. But behind the scenes, David struggled with addiction, pressure, and the emotional toll of living inside a world that never seemed to slow down. As things spiraled deeper, he reached a point where he had to face the damage that was building around him and inside him. During that difficult time, David turned toward God. His faith became the anchor that helped him break unhealthy cycles and rebuild his life with more clarity and purpose. His sobriety became his priority, and his beliefs guided him through some of his toughest moments. Even when he returned to music, he did it with a different mindset, one focused on growth, faith, and staying grounded instead of getting lost in the noise. David's transformation showed how a man known for intensity and rebellion could find strength in something far deeper. His journey reminded fans that even legends can fall, rise again, and choose a path built on peace instead of chaos. So now you've seen the surprising journeys of 20 heavy metal stars who walked away from roaring crowds and chaotic tours to follow a path they believed was bigger than fame itself. Their stories prove that even the loudest lives can take quiet, unexpected turns, and sometimes the boldest choice is the one nobody sees coming. But it leaves one big question hanging in the air. If these icons could step away from everything they built, what hidden battles might other stars be facing right now? If you want more eye-opening stories, shocking twists, and secrets Hollywood never talks about, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss what's coming next.